If you own a PS VR2 headset, these 25 games will completely blow your mind in 2026. Kicking off the list at number 1, Arken Age is hands down the finest action-adventure title currently available on PS VR2. Developed by Vitruvius VR, this sci-fi game puts you in the middle of a richly detailed alien world, filled with combat-heavy encounters and tactile VR-first mechanics. The weapon handling feels weighty and satisfying, and the gravity mace in particular turns every arena into glorious chaos. Eye tracking and adaptive trigger feedback from the PS VR2 headset are fully utilized, giving every encounter a physical sense of presence that few VR games manage to replicate. Performance is silky smooth, and PS5 Pro users get an additional visual boost on top of an already impressive base. It was widely recognized as VR Game of the Year for 2025, and it absolutely earns that title. Stepping into number 2, Horizon Call of the Mountain is still the definitive showcase title for what PS VR2 is capable of as a platform. Built exclusively for the headset from the ground up, this adventure drops you into the rich world of Horizon with breathtaking visuals and a climbing system that genuinely makes your palms sweat. Bow mechanics are intuitive and deeply satisfying, using the sense controllers in a way that feels completely natural from the very first shot. The environments are stunning across every level, from dense forests to ancient ruins filled with mechanical creatures. It remains the game most recommended for anyone new to the headset and still holds up remarkably well against newer releases. The bundle including this game and the PS VR2 headset is the best starting point for any newcomer. Number 3 belongs to Resident Evil Village VR mode, one of the most intense and cinematically immersive VR experiences available on the platform. Playing through the full campaign of Village in virtual reality completely transforms the game, making every encounter with Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters a genuinely terrifying ordeal. The OLED display on PS VR2 brings the game's dark castle environments to life with deep blacks and rich contrast that flat screens simply cannot replicate. Haptic feedback through the headset vibrates during enemy attacks, creating a full-body sense of dread that is hard to describe without experiencing it firsthand. The level of detail in the environments is exceptional, and the VR perspective gives familiar scenes an entirely new and unsettling feeling. For horror fans, this is an essential experience. Gran Turismo 7 arrives at number 4 as one of the most technically impressive racing simulations ever put into VR. Sitting in the cockpit of a finely tuned racing car on a real-world track inside PS VR2 is an experience that is genuinely difficult to match in any other gaming format. The clarity of the OLED display makes every detail of the dashboard, track, and surrounding environment razor sharp, and the sense of speed through corners is viscerally convincing. Adaptive triggers simulate resistance through the steering wheel, adding a layer of physical feedback that deepens immersion with every lap. Regular content updates continue to expand the car list and track selection, giving longtime players constant reasons to return. If you own PS VR2 and haven't played this yet, it needs to be at the top of your list immediately. Ghost Town takes number 5 as a supernatural puzzle adventure that stands out as one of the most polished and visually stunning narrative experiences on the headset. Developed by Fireproof Games, the studio behind the Room series, this title follows paranormal detective Edith Penrose across 1980s London as she investigates a deeply compelling supernatural mystery. The puzzle design strikes a perfect balance between challenge and accessibility, never frustrating but always satisfying when solutions click into place. Visually, it is exceptional, with environments full of atmospheric detail that benefit enormously from the OLED display and wide field of view. The storytelling is engaging throughout, and the overall production quality rivals that of a big-budget flat game. A must-play for anyone who enjoys narrative-driven VR experiences. Coming in at number 6, Reach is a high-octane action-adventure that confidently delivers one of the most blockbuster single-player experiences currently on PS VR2. The game blends platforming, shooting, and melee combat in a way that feels cohesive and consistently exciting from start to finish. Movement is fluid, and the sense of physical presence during combat is excellent, making every encounter feel impactful and kinetic. The visual design is ambitious, with large and detailed environments that look spectacular through the PS VR2 lenses. It arrived in late 2025 and quickly became one of the most talked about VR releases of the year among players looking for a meaty, standalone adventure. For anyone craving a proper action game in VR, this is the one to reach for. Metro Awakening steps up at number 7 as a dark and deeply atmospheric first-person survival horror experience set in the iconic Metro universe. The claustrophobic tunnels and dimly lit environments of post-apocalyptic Moscow have never felt more oppressively real than they do inside a VR headset. Resource management is a constant tension, and the act of physically reloading weapons and managing your gas mask filter adds a genuine layer of stress to every moment. The PS VR2 head feedback makes environmental hazards feel viscerally present, and the adaptive triggers add resistance when pulling back worn-out weapons. The storytelling is strong and the pacing is well managed, delivering a campaign that never outstays its welcome. Metro fans and newcomers to the franchise will both find a lot to appreciate here. Number 8 goes to Skydance's Behemoth, an ambitious and visually striking action game built around large-scale combat encounters with massive enemies. The game draws clear inspiration from dark fantasy and Souls-like design sensibilities, tasking you with taking down enormous creatures using climbing mechanics and melee-focused combat. Physically grabbing onto a massive enemy and scaling it mid-fight is an experience that only makes sense in VR, and Behemoth executes this concept with real confidence. The art direction is grim and detailed, with environments that feel genuinely dangerous and atmospheric throughout. PSVR 2's headset haptics add to the sense of scale during boss encounters, making impacts feel genuinely massive. It is a bold and distinctive entry in the PSVR 2 library that rewards players willing to engage with its demanding combat. Resident Evil 4 VR mode arrives at number 9 as another extraordinary reimagining of a beloved classic through the lens of virtual reality. Playing through Leon's legendary mission to rescue the president's daughter in full VR with PSVR 2 controls completely redefines how the game feels to play. Physically aiming, reloading, and managing inventory items using your hands adds a layer of engagement that the original never had. The Ganado's village sequences and castle sections are especially effective in VR, transforming familiar set pieces into genuinely nerve-wracking encounters. Haptic feedback through the Sense controllers makes every shotgun blast and knife parry feel physically satisfying. For anyone who loves the game in its original form, experiencing it in VR is revelatory. Number 10 belongs to Arizona Sunshine 2, the most complete and content-rich zombie VR shooter currently available on PSVR 2. Set in a sun-scorched post-apocalyptic landscape, the game delivers a full campaign with a genuinely entertaining story told through the protagonist's constantly amusing inner monologue. Physically reloading weapons, opening doors, and throwing grenades using natural hand movements makes every encounter feel active and engaging rather than passive. The co-op mode adds significant replay value, letting you and a friend tear through zombie hordes together with full online support. Enemy variety is solid throughout, and the game regularly throws new scenarios and environments at you to keep the pacing fresh. It is one of the most straightforwardly fun games on the platform. Roboquest VR steps in at number 11 as a fast-paced first-person roguelite shooter that translates its exhilarating gameplay loop into VR with remarkable effectiveness. Each run drops you into colorful sci-fi environments packed with robotic enemies that require quick reflexes, smart positioning, and smart use of an expanding arsenal. The roguelite structure means no two runs feel identical, with weapon upgrades and character unlocks adding consistent motivation to keep pushing forward. Movement is fast and fluid, and the gunplay feels punchy and satisfying through the Sense controllers and adaptive trigger feedback. Visually, the game is vibrant and detailed, running smoothly even during intense combat moments. For fans of action-heavy VR that rewards repeated play, this is an outstanding choice. Number 12 is Synapse, a PSVR 2 exclusive that makes exceptional use of the headset's eye-tracking technology in a way that genuinely elevates the combat experience. You fight through the subconscious mind of an antagonist, using a combination of pistol shooting and powerful telekinetic abilities, with the eye-tracking system letting you target objects and enemies simply by looking at them. This mechanic feels completely intuitive after a short adjustment period and becomes deeply satisfying once mastered. The roguelite structure keeps each run feeling fresh, with shifting enemy layouts and escalating challenges that reward skill and adaptability. The dark, surreal visual design is compelling and well realized throughout. it is one of the best examples of PSVR2 specific design on the entire platform. The Midnight Walk arrives at number 13 as a hauntingly beautiful and deeply atmospheric narrative experience unlike anything else on PSVR2. The game is built around a handcrafted stop-motion aesthetic that gives every environment and character a textured, tactile quality that feels completely unique in the VR space. You explore dark and melancholy worlds through the perspective of a small flame called Potboy, navigating puzzles and unraveling a quietly moving story. The use of light and shadow is exceptional, with the OLED display making the contrast between darkness and candlelight feel genuinely magical. PS5 Pro users benefit from additional visual enhancements that push the already striking art direction even further. It is a short but deeply memorable experience that showcases the artistic potential of VR as a medium. Alien Rogue Incursion takes number 14 as the most fully realized Alien game to arrive in VR, delivering a genuinely terrifying first-person survival horror experience in the iconic sci-fi universe. You play as a survivor stranded on a research facility overrun by xenomorphs, and the sense of dread that builds with every distant scraping sound and flickering corridor light is exceptional. The motion tracker is physically held and operated using the Sense controllers, just as it appears in the films, adding an authentic layer of tension to every search. Hiding, sneaking, and occasionally fighting your way through the infested station demands patience and nerves, rewarding careful players with a deeply immersive campaign. The Xenomorph AI is aggressive and unpredictable, making every encounter genuinely dangerous. For horror fans and alien enthusiasts, this one is unmissable. Lumines Arise steps in at number 15 as a visually spectacular rhythm puzzle game that takes the beloved Luminous formula and transforms it into a breathtaking VR experience. The core gameplay of matching colored blocks to the beat of music translates extraordinarily well into virtual reality, where the blocks and visual effects seem to exist in the space around you in 3 dimensions. The soundtrack is exceptional as always for the franchise, spanning a wide range of electronic and experimental music that drives the hypnotic gameplay loop perfectly. PSVR2's OLED display makes the pulsing visuals and light effects genuinely stunning to watch and play. It is accessible enough for newcomers to the series while offering enough depth to satisfy longtime fans. A truly unique and beautiful entry in the PSVR2 library. Into the Radius 2 arrives at number 16 as the most immersive and demanding survival shooter currently available on PSVR2. Set in a mysterious, anomalous zone filled with supernatural hazards and hostile enemies, the game requires you to manage weapons, ammunition, and supplies with a level of physical detail that makes every expedition feel genuinely consequential. Cleaning and maintaining your weapons by hand, navigating without a minimap, and carefully managing your inventory creates a sense of tension and investment that flat games simply cannot replicate. The atmosphere is dense and oppressive, with environments that feel genuinely dangerous and alive in unpredictable ways. It is a slow, deliberate, and deeply rewarding survival experience that demands patience but delivers exceptional immersion in return. One of the most ambitious VR games available on the platform. No Man's Sky takes number 17 as a staggering open universe exploration game that becomes something entirely different and extraordinary when experienced through PSVR2. Flying between planets, landing on alien worlds, building bases, and encountering other travelers all take on a completely new dimension when you are physically present inside the game's vast and endlessly varied universe. The scale of the experience is genuinely awe-inspiring in VR, with planet surfaces and space vistas that feel massive and real in a way that a flat screen cannot convey. Regular free updates have continued to expand the game's content significantly, adding new biomes, mechanics, and story content that keep the experience fresh year after year. For explorers and creative players looking for a game with virtually no ceiling, this remains one of VR's greatest achievements. Demeo x Dungeons & Dragons Battlemarked arrives at number 18 as a standout tabletop strategy experience that fully justifies the potential of VR for board game enthusiasts. Miniatures feel alive and present on the game board in a way that physical tabletop gaming can only aspire to, and the act of physically picking up cards, rolling dice, and moving pieces creates a sense of tactile engagement that is genuinely unique. Multiplayer is a highlight, with the feeling of presence around a shared table with other players creating a genuine social atmosphere. Combat carries real weight despite the miniature scale, and the Dungeons & Dragons setting brings a rich lore backdrop to the strategic gameplay. It demands patience and strategic thinking rather than fast reflexes, but rewards both with consistently satisfying sessions, a distinctive and impressive entry in the library. Of Lies and Rain steps in at number 19 as a compelling narrative adventure that blends detective work with a dark and atmospheric fantasy setting. You play as an investigator unraveling a mystery across a richly detailed world filled with morally complex characters and branching story decisions that carry real consequences. The writing is strong and the world building is layered and detailed, rewarding players who take the time to explore and engage with every element of the environment. PS VR2's immersive display makes the atmospheric environments feel genuinely alive, and the sense of physical presence inside the game's world deepens the emotional impact of key story moments. The pacing is deliberate and story-focused, making it a natural recommendation for players who prioritize narrative over action. A mature and well-crafted VR experience. Before Your Eyes arrives at number 20 as one of the most emotionally affecting and mechanically inventive narrative experiences available on PSVR 2. The game uses the headset's eye-tracking technology in a deeply meaningful way, advancing through memories and story moments each time you blink. This mechanic transforms the act of watching into an act of participation, creating a sense of loss and urgency that is completely unique to the VR version of the experience. The story follows a soul recounting the memories of their life, and the writing is genuinely moving from beginning to end. At roughly 90 minutes in length, it is a short experience, but the emotional resonance it leaves behind far outlasts its runtime. It is a perfect example of VR being used to do something that no other medium can replicate. Walkabout Mini Golf claims number 21 as the most socially enjoyable and consistently relaxing experience in the entire PSVR 2 library. Beautifully designed courses across a wide variety of themes offer genuinely creative and challenging hole layouts that reward skill and careful aim without ever feeling punishing. The physics are realistic and satisfying, and swinging your virtual putter with the Sense controllers feels natural and intuitive from the very first hole. The multiplayer component is a major strength, allowing you to play with friends online in a casual and genuinely pleasant social environment with integrated voice chat. Hidden collectible balls scattered across every course add an extra layer of replay value that keeps players coming back long after they have completed every hole. It is the game that proves VR does not always need to be intense to be exceptional. Hitman World of Assassination Trilogy VR steps up at number 22 as one of the most content-rich and replayable experiences available on the headset. Playing through the entire World of Assassination trilogy in first-person VR completely reinvents the experience of being Agent 47, making the art of blending in, planning assassinations, and executing precise takedowns feel genuinely thrilling. The sheer volume of content across all three games provides hundreds of hours of replayability, with each mission offering multiple approaches, disguises, and targets to discover. PSVR 2 controls make physically interacting with the game world deeply satisfying, from adjusting your tie to drawing a weapon. The social stealth gameplay translates remarkably well into VR, creating moments of tension and dark humor that feel entirely fresh. An extraordinary amount of value in a single package. Thrill of the Fight 2 arrives at number 23 as the most physically demanding and technically impressive boxing simulation on PSVR 2. This sequel refines everything the original did well, delivering punch tracking that is sharp, precise, and genuinely responsive to the way you actually move your body. Training against increasingly skilled AI opponents provides a real and escalating physical challenge that will push your cardio and technique simultaneously. The haptic feedback through the Sense controllers adds a satisfying impact to every connected punch, making the physical feedback loop deeply convincing. Higher difficulty opponents fight back intelligently, demanding real boxing fundamentals like head movement, footwork, and combination punching to defeat. It is simultaneously one of the best fitness experiences and one of the most mechanically sound sports games on the platform. Kayak VR Mirage claims number 24 as the most visually breathtaking showcase of raw graphical power on the entire PSVR 2 platform. Racing a kayak through environments ranging from Antarctic glaciers to tropical canyons and bioluminescent caves, the game delivers visual fidelity that consistently draws gasps from first-time players. The sense of speed and physical presence on the water is remarkable, with spray, reflections, and environmental detail that push the PS VR2 hardware to its visual limits. Controls are intuitive, and the racing is engaging enough to justify repeated runs across every course for better times and cleaner lines. It is one of the games most commonly used to demonstrate the headset's capabilities to newcomers, and for very good reason. Visually, there is simply nothing else quite like it. Closing out the list at number 25, Pistol Whip is a rhythmic action shooter that remains one of the most endlessly replayable and purely satisfying experiences in all of VR gaming. Each scene plays out like an on-rails action film sequence set to a pounding soundtrack as you dodge incoming fire and shoot enemies in time with the music. The scoring system rewards precision and style, creating a compelling reason to replay every scene in pursuit of higher rankings and cleaner performances. New scenes and difficulty modifiers have continued to be added through updates, keeping the content library growing well beyond the base game. The combination of music, movement, and gunplay creates a flow state that is genuinely unique to VR and essentially impossible to replicate in any other format. An essential title for any PS VR2 owner.